When it comes to diets, sugar has been the target for generations, but the message of which kinds of sugars are best has never been more confusing. Registered dietitian Nishta Saxena is here with a look at the different kinds of sugars out there and the best way to use them. Good morning.
Good morning.
Helpful and wise advice.
Absolutely.
We'll start with the biggest target, which is white sugar. This takes the most flack.
This takes the most flack, and this is what we think of when we think of sugar, because today we're talking about things that have calories and that will raise your blood sugar. So white sugar comes from sugar beet, sugar cane. They're juicing that, then they're evaporating the water away to get this crystallized form of sugar, which is sucrose. It's 100% sucrose, which is 50% glucose and 50% fructose. And there's a lot of different forms of this. There's confectioner's sugar, castor sugar, granulated in the white sugar category. So it is something that's probably most commonly used compared to all different sugars.
Part of our conversation is about, which sugar is good, which sugar is bad, but what does that actually mean? What's the bad of sugar?
Well, I mean, it is something across all of these that you want to watch where it is in your diet. I think a lot of Canadians don't realize how much sugar is added to other foods they're consuming, that they don't anticipate there to be sugar in. So when we're controlling sugar and adding a tiny bit to tea or coffee, that's very different than looking across the foods you're eating and seeing sugars in every one of the foods that you're eating.
Right. Oftentimes, and I've been guilty of this, I will think that brown sugar is better than white sugar.
Yeah, so the difference here is brown sugar is very similar. It's almost identical, 95% sucrose.
What?
Yeah, I know, but it is slightly more hydrating. So sugar does actually hold a lot of water in baked goods, which is why it's using its hydroscopic. Brown sugar has 5% molasses added. So the molasses at the end, that byproduct, gives it its rich color, and it has a deeper flavor. Some people think of it as adding a lot more flavor to their baking. So white sugar you can use across everything. This you'd want to use in oatmeals, porridges, and you want that, if you want that deep kind of flavor. But the verdict is, the brown is not necessarily better.
Not better
it's
for you?
It's not better, no. It's just really sugar.
All right, molasses is something my grandparents used all the time for everything, which I found gross on my cereal.
Oh, yeah, I actually didn't eat it when I was a child, but I love it now. Blackstrap molasses is the common type of molasses that you'll kind of hear about, and it's actually the byproduct of all of this sugar manufacturing. It's almost like the syrup left over at the end. Now, what's interesting here is it contains some actual minerals. So if you look at 2 tablespoons of molasses, you can actually see that you can get 8 to 10% of calcium and iron from having that much blackstrap molasses. It's a really bittersweet, sticky, gooey kind of product, so you can't really use it easily in a lot of different types of cooking. It does best as kind of drizzled on toast or porridge, and it does have that bit of a bitter quality, but it's that leftover residue has some minerals in it.
How does it stack up compared to the brown and the white sugars?
If you had to go between brown and white, I would say so far this has a slight edge because of that mineral content. Certainly, you don't want to have vats of it because, like all of these, you have to watch your portions.
We have about a minute left, but we have a couple sugars to get through. Coconut sugar sounds like it's going to be healthy. It's expensive.
It's very expensive, 4 times more expensive than any of the other sugars here. There's a lot of health claims about it, but they haven't really been proven. Comes from the coconut palm tree, not to be confused with palm tree, which palm sugar is different. It has, again, a nice dark flavor. It's from the sap of the tree, so it has some of those extra minerals, antioxidants, polyphenols, but really there's no measured health benefit here. You still have to watch your portion.
Okay, honey, we see this everywhere now.
Honey is beautiful, and honey does have some really interesting values to it. Where it's grown, it's going to have different properties, and whether or not it's highly refined, it's going to have some of those extra added antioxidants. It has minerals as well, and it has some of the parts of bees in it, like bee propolis and bee pollen, which do have some really interesting qualities to them. But again, it's very high in calories, so you have to watch how much you're having, and taking large amounts of it hasn't been shown to improve health in any way.
Is there a difference between buying, let's say, like the thin, in the bare squeezy bottle or the creamed or the natural?
Yeah, I would say that the more unrefined it is, it will contain more of some of those extra added plant compounds that we talk about that come from the actual beehive.
Okay, Vasic Pospisil and much of Canada love maple syrup.
You can't not love maple syrup. Maple syrup, I would say, is one of the ones that, as Canadians, we love it, but it also has sap. The sap contains minerals the same way as some of the molasses. You're getting a little bit of zinc, calcium. It's actually a source of calcium, but you don't want to trade in your multivitamin yet for a maple syrup. Just stick to watching portions, again, of this delicious Canadian classic.
All right, Nisha, thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
All right. Thanks for watching. If you like this, be sure to subscribe here.
And you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.